All right. We would really like to welcome Maurice Harris from Bloom Plume and let him come on down.
Hello, 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 hello. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? I said, how is everybody doing tonight? Much better. Ooh, okay, these raggedy knees. All right, okay. I'm Maurice Harris. Okay, that's great. We're getting somewhere. Um, so I am a florist, what am I? I've recently changed my title to artist. And that's been a really big deal for me because I think I've been cosplaying as not an artist or hiding behind all of these other ventures since I graduated from art school. And that has been kind of an interesting transition for me. Like I went to, where did I go? Otis College of Art and Design in Los Angeles, California. Thank you very much. Very expensive degree, I appreciate the shout out. I still paying for it actually, 20 years later, good for me. Anyways, okay, so I went to art school, graduated, and I went into window display, which I thought was a form of being an artist creative, but here's the key. I didn't want to be broke. So I wanted to be able to afford my Gucci and my diamonds and all the things, even though I didn't know about that then, but like, whatever. So I thought I would like not take the struggling artist path. So I was like, ooh, if I become a window display person at Barney's, I'll be rich. And I'll be surrounded by designer things, it'll be all good. And then Flowers found me. I was working at Juicy Couture at the time in the display department, and I produced all the windows all over the country and stuff. We'll come to Florida a lot, actually, to set up those stores. And I found myself doing flowers here and there. And it was just something I really, really loved and really just enjoyed doing. And then it took them forever, when the economy crashed in 2008, it took them forever to lay me off. Like I literally had my job till 2010. And I was like, you guys, I need my severance package. That's the only way I'm getting out of here. And so I eventually got laid off, and then that's what caused me to explore what was next. Flowers were always a part of my history. My grandmother was a milliner, she was a florist, and so as a kid I would watch her do flowers and watch her create. I just loved watching people create, whether it was food, whether it was like my mom making a dress for my little sister, or my grandmother making a whole ensemble for herself. I just love the idea of taking random materials and turning them into something else. That was really exciting to me. And so as I was exploring this new journey for myself, I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, where do I go? You guys, I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I would do flowers on the side. I did like a lot of like I would be like a dancer in the background of a commercial or something like that. I would be like, I was an assistant of an assistant of an assistant to the clown props department at Cirque du Soleil. That was insane. A couple of other little weird random things. But the thing that kept happening is I would do window display for like random little small companies around Los Angeles. And then I met this lady who had a blog, and she would do flowers, or she would show off her house, and her flowers were trash. And I was like, I play around with flowers and I can make it look like you did them, but they'll actually look nice. The audacity of me. And so I did that, and I would just like kind of do her house flowers, and then she would tell her friends, and then it just kind of snowballed into, I just followed where the money took me, essentially, because I was broke and needed to like try to put food on my table. And so that was kind of the birth of Bloom Plume, to be honest with you, was like, if I would have got more dancing jobs, if I would have got more background jobs, if I would have crawled my way up at Cirque du Soleil, I would have had a completely different path. But flowers is what kept calling me. I bring this up because I have this series on my Instagram called Capitalism Doesn't Care About Your Creativity. And along this journey, I was able to understand slowly that these two ideas of my creativity and capitalism were low-key at war. They were not in unison because as I followed my passion for flowers, the taxes that I had to pay, the insurances that I had to figure out, the rents that I had to pay, the payroll that I had to figure out, and all while trying to give somebody a discount because there's somebody's friend of a friend who wants to be my best friend now, but then never talks to me again after the event, but then now I'm still stuck paying for it. All of that was just crazy. Can any of you guys relate to that experience, right? Like, you're just like, I'm literally not getting rich doing your flowers. Flowers are just expensive. Like, event production is expensive. What makes it expensive? The labor. Like, and not to get too political, but our country was built on slave labor, and we still think 300-400 years later that labor is free. Like, it's something that we just don't value as much. And as I started to really understand this, it was like, how do I negotiate this? How do I deal with this? So, oh Lord, I've locked myself out of the computer and that's not my fingerprint. Help, please. Or just change the slide. I'm gonna come down on you guys' level. Will you go to the next slide, please? Fabulous. So what I realized was that being authentic is what was like the vibe. So for a long time, I just followed the money. And then what I noticed was that, let's not be crazy. I've always, like I said when I first started, I've always cosplayed as an artist, right? So I hid behind other things to like be the artist that I am. So I actually treated my flower business, if you could call it that, as an art practice. So all of my ad campaigns were so weird and bizarre. All of the arrangements that I would do was so weird and bizarre. Carlos was talking about earlier how when you go to different venues, depending on how you treat the venue or how that relationship and what that looks like determines whether they want to have you back. And I'm definitely that diva who was like, you guys are so lucky to have me. And then wondering why nobody wants to call me back. That was wild. Because I really thought like I was bringing the goods, but not realizing that having a business, it's all about like the relationships. It's all about the like your bottom line. It's about how you're negotiating all these different people and all these different things, not just your pure creativity. And so for me, being that I have made that mistake so many times, Lord have mercy, the ups and the downs of it all, I really realized that through this process, I would just like post weird things on the internet, and those weird things would kind of take off a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I never really realized that was probably more of an authentic path for me. I still kept trying to like drive this creative business and do this creative thing, and it just wasn't working. And it wasn't until it all crashed and burned. Me and my therapist talk about this a lot, where things don't change until it's painful enough, which is just like, ugh, I hate that phrase so much. It's so irritating because it's like, no, I get it. No, I totally get it. But then you don't change until you literally have to. When there is no money in your bank account and you're like, well, how are these bills getting paid? I guess I better do something different. Can't keep doing it the same way, can I? And that's essentially what happened to me. And so I reluctantly, very reluctantly, leaned into the social media side of things. And it's where I was working with my marketing person. And they're like, oh, people just like want to see you and just like want to see what you're up to and all the nonsense here. And I'm like, oh my God, nobody wants to see that. That is like absolutely no, like I wouldn't say I'm a control freak, but I do like to curate what one experiences from me. So maybe that is a little bit of a control freak. But the more I allowed myself to be, the more I was able to fully be self-expressed, and that felt more comfortable in my path, if that makes sense. Because what I was finding myself doing was I was overly trying to perfect how everything appeared and how I was curating everything. And so when I let that go and allowed for consistency and just putting things out there, that's how you grow, that's how you learn, that's how you get better at things. One thing that Sue said in her presentation that I thought was like something, if you guys didn't hear it, make sure you hear that, is that like practicing and copying to find your voice, that's the thing. Nothing is gonna be perfect. Nothing is, and in fact, perfection is what paralyzes us all from doing anything because we're like, well, I could have done that better. If I would have done blah, 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 well, go do it, diva. We're waiting, like it'll never happen in that way. And so when you allow yourself to just put things out there, make a mistake, do it wrong, get it better, over and over and over and over again, whether that is for someone else or whether that is just for yourself, just allowing not to be so committed to every little detail is how you actually make change in the world. One of the examples I use of this a lot is the designer Virgil Abloh, who was the designer of Louis Vuitton. He had Off-White. He passed away, RIP. And if I'm being completely honest, I do not love maybe like 40% of the things that he put out in the world. I think it was just like boring, bad design, not great. However, he did not care. He was just like, not everything I put out has to be perfect. I'm sure he had to be aware of that on some level too, but it didn't stop him from doing it. He did not get in his own way for like putting things out into the world. And so that is a thing that I try to encourage myself to do every day. I would encourage all of you to do every day, is just to keep putting it out there. That is the only way you get better at things. One of my new hobbies that I'm taking on these days is I take photos every day. I walk around with my camera, which is insane because I have 3 batteries ready to go at my hotel that I forgot to put in my camera this morning, and then my camera's about to, anyways, bless my heart. But so my camera isn't fully here today, which is crazy because it's so heavy, and I took it on the plane and the whole 9 to get here so that I could photograph everybody, and now, okay. So, but I take photos every day, and part of that thing is I've had this fancy camera for like 5 years or something, and I only would pull it out when I had a job. And then I would be like, oh, I don't know how to use it. And I would just get really frustrated. And then and then a new one came out, and I was like, oh my God, I have to get the new camera. And he was like, well, didn't you just say you were broke? I was like, yeah, but this new camera is amazing, and I need it to get better at my job. And he was like, respectfully, why don't you use the one you have? And I was like, what a concept. And so I started using the damn thing every day. And what do you know? I literally discovered something about myself. I discovered about like what focal lengths I like. I learned like what exposures I like. I mean, things that are Photo 101, which I've taken photo classes forever in college and all that stuff, but I always found the technical to be very difficult. However, being able to like play with the tool and give myself room to play with the tool allowed for me to actually grow. Where in my flower business, everything I did turned into like, I have to do this for this job. That I never like spent time doing things just because I loved flowers again. The thing that I love to reiterate with people is being true to like what you have going on, that's what I was gonna say. Allowing yourself room to explore. So when I talk about capitalism doesn't care about your creativity, I still think you can have a creative business as long as you keep whatever that creative thing is, you keep something for yourself. So what I mean by that is once I realized that every time I picked up a flower was for a job and I was getting resentful at like how much I was charging for this, like if I'm paying $6 for this peony or some exotic flower, which is what everybody like wanted from me because my eye always goes to the most expensive product at the market, and then I can only mark it up like 1.5 times as opposed to the 3 times that I normally like I would be resentful as I'm making the arrangement because I'm like, they ain't even paying for all this, but then they expect this from me. Anyways, so what I realized is that I just needed to have some projects for me. And when I go to the market and I buy those things for me, for my project, for my own photograph, for something that I want to do, that then I can just like go over here and do like beep, bop, boop. Y'all better be happy and get glad because I showed up. You know, like, and because it's not about your creativity. Here's like a really big secret that I learned a long time ago that I still forget all the time. Whenever somebody comes to you for your creativity and they think you're so out there and you're so cool and you're so this, they're looking for something that is 10% outside of their reality. Hear what I'm saying here. They're looking for something that is 10% outside of their reality, not yours. I'm insane. I am out of my mind, okay? And so when you're like, oh my God, we just want you to be fully self-expressed, we want to see all of your creativity, they really don't. Because as soon as I get to them, they're like, what? And so that's why you have to do that for yourself, right? And keep true to that because that's what draws them in. Whenever we would put merch, when I had my coffee shop and we would do merch and all these different things, and I would do all these crazy colors and do all this other stuff, the things that sold were black, neutral, and boring. But people were drawn to it because of the wild, eccentric colors. And so this is just business 101, right? Marketing 101, where people want to be drawn in by something they would never buy, but want to be associated with, but they're actually just gonna do the white we put up like posters. We were selling Capitalism Doesn't Care About Your Creativity posters. I do this on purpose. Like I was like, we're gonna do a white one, we're gonna do a colored one, and then we're gonna do a crazy one. Y'all know the white one sold out 3 times, right? We put up totes, the white one and the pink one. The white one sells like gangbusters. But like the other ones get all the likes and get all the attention. And so I say this to say, like, don't take it personally. It's not an attack on my creativity. It's not an attack on what I'm putting out there. It's just respectfully, most people are more on the basic side, right? So like they come to us to elevate their basic life, to like let them live a little, you know? And so you just have to not, when I could figure out how to not take that stuff so personally in my business, it really helped me to show up with a lot of freedom. How I was able to do that, again, was having my own my own projects that didn't matter whether somebody was interested in it or not, right? So I had this series called Shades of Blackness where I photograph black bodies and these crazy, insane floral installations that I would make just because I wanted to make it, right? If you bought it, great. If you didn't, I literally don't care. Although, I will tell you something that's interesting. When you do put out something that is super authentic, I'm under NDA for the part that I really want to tell you guys, so I can't tell you, but a super famous person hired me to like photograph them and their family in one of my flower installations because they just saw the images that I put up. So that had nothing to do with anything, right? And I got a lot of work out of this thing that I did purely for my own creative expression. So I think it's just interesting to have that ebb and flow and really understand that having a creative business is really about like separating the two or understanding when it's literally not personal. I'm a double Cancer, which means I am so sensitive. It's insane. Literally stuff I do not care about at all. I'll be like, I can't believe they said that to me. Why is nobody here? Why didn't nobody want to see that? Why is nobody liking it? I mean, it's just, who cares? Like, keep showing up, Diva, it's fine. So when people wouldn't buy certain things historically, I would just be mortified. That then would get me back into the perfectionistic side of things where I didn't want to post anything or I didn't want to put anything out there because nobody likes me and nobody likes how I creatively express myself. It really was debilitating. And so I say all of this stuff that I'm saying, hey, I'm kind of talking out of my butt because, you know, I don't even take my own advice all the way. I'm really working hard to do that. So I really am talking to myself, even though I'm talking to you guys, I'm talking to me because I need the reminder constantly as a creative to like show up for myself. Because it is very, very difficult to be fully self-expressed, to be like a weirdo, to be like a little off-kilter, and to stay present in that space, because it can be a little lonely when you're like, well, I just wanted to do this thing. And it's like, oh no, we just wanted you to have on a pink shirt. It's like, huh? Like, I do all kinds of crazy things. Why did you just reduce me down to pink instead of a black shirt? Anyways, weird example. Thank you so much. Being happy. Okay, so here's the other part of this that I think is great. How am I doing? Am I doing great on time? Oh, I'm so good at this. This is crazy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, honestly. Thank you. Thank you. I also love a headset mic, so I could literally do this all day long, because I just after we're done with lunch, we'll do a step aerobics, because that's where I feel like I really can eat it up with my headset mic. But I really want you guys to also know that abundance comes when you are grateful for where you're at. So the other part of this is, as you're going through transition, as you're figuring out how to be authentic, how to keep showing up as yourself, how to separate your creativity from your business, how to find synergy and all of that, be grateful for where you're at right now today, because when you find that center, that's when all the opportunities open themselves up. For real, for real. I have had this example happen to me probably 3 or 4 times that I can literally see where 2 of those times where I was working retail and I was fed up. Again, I think, which is crazy that I have all these self-doubts, because I really do think I'm the cat's pajamas on some. I'll be like, they are just so lucky that I showed up to work and I'm giving them all this fabulosity. Meanwhile, I'm like, will anybody say hi to me? It was just psycho. So I was working at this retail shop, wanting to do more window display type stuff. And I was just over it. I was over my manager. I was over all the things. And I was like, you know what, Maurice, stop. Be grateful for where you're at right now. Be excited that you actually have a job. And to the next person you see, give them amazing customer service. And just go from there. That person that I gave the amazing customer service was a recruiter that then recruited me to my next job. That's insane. This has happened to me twice. I did it at another job that I was fed up with again. Who's the problem? And then I was like, okay, let me be content with where I'm at, blah, 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 blah. The next people I see, I'm gonna give them amazing customer service. And again, that's how I got recruited to my next job. And so I think those were 2 very perfect examples of what it looks like when you find contentment in where you're at and what you're doing. Even though it doesn't seem or feel great, staying the course, staying on your path. Oh my God, this was something Sue said, I can't remember, but sparked me to want to remind you guys that and Carlos also said something like this when he was talking about the group chat, you guys aren't in competition with each other, right? A huge reason in Los Angeles, at least, I kind of took myself out of the day-to-day flower game because it was a race to the bottom, because everybody was just trying to make their prices cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I was like, I just know how much this costs. I know what it takes to put on a flawless production. I know what it takes for me to get in and out in 3 hours and do an insane installation. So if you want that, it's gonna cost this. And most people would just end up going a different direction. And so I felt like we weren't all on the same path. And so I was like, instead of trying to compete in this place that felt kind of toxic for me, I was like, I'm gonna take myself out of this equation and I'm going to follow my path. And I'm gonna do what I know how to do, what I can do, which was the internet liked me, so I stay on the internet. It's crazy, scares me, frightening, weird, but I think when you stay on your path, when you don't put on your blinders and you're like, this is what I have to do, this is how I keep putting one foot in front of the other, that means there's room at the table for all of us, because that means we're all doing our own thing. And if they need something crazy, they'll maybe go to me. If they need something a little bit more traditional, they'll go to someone else. If they need something a little bit more streamlined with a little edge, they'll go to this person. I'm not trying to be everything to everybody anymore. I just know how to be me. And that's what I have to say. So I encourage all of you guys to be great in your lives. Do you? I guess I should, if you want to ask me a question or something, feel free. Are there any questions or anything anybody wants to say or not say? Oh my God, I love you too! Thank you guys.